I'll never forget that morning. The crunch of gravel, the spin of tires, and then a sharp crack that punched straight through the quiet. My private property sign lay snapped in two, dust swirling around a spotless white SUV stamped with the HOA emblem. Behind the wheel sat Claire Phillips, the self-crowned ruler of Whispering Pines, driving across my land like it was some shortcut printed on her personal map. She didn't slow down, didn't apologize, just lifted a smug little hand through her tinted window. A wave that basically meant, "Try stopping me." And right there, something inside me broke louder than that signpost ever did. 15 years I spent carving that dirt road with my own hands, sweat, blisters, busted knuckles, protecting every inch of this ranch. And Claire flattened it under her tires like it was nothing. That was the moment I stopped playing nice. If Claire wanted to use my land, then she was about to learn exactly where that road ended. Before I get deeper into this insane HOA story, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city and the local time. And make sure you hit subscribe, because trust me, you'll want to see how this war ends. If you've ever lived on a piece of land long enough, it becomes part of you, like your heartbeat stretched across acres. That dirt road from the highway to my barn wasn't just a path, it was history. I'd nursed it back to life after every summer storm, up at dawn with my old grader, smoothing out the washouts so the feed truck could get through. That road was my pride, my peace, and for 15 years, nobody disturbed it. Then they came. A brand new HOA subdivision popped up past the creek last year. One of those shiny modern neighborhoods where every house looks copy-pasted from the same brochure. They named it Whispering Pines, even though you couldn't find a pine tree within 3 miles. Didn't matter. People bought in like it was paradise. And Claire Phillips, she crowned herself queen the minute she moved in. At first, I didn't care. Every once in a while, I'd see a car lingering near my fence line or a golf cart drifting too close. Nothing serious. Until one morning, there they were, tire tracks running straight down my dirt road. Fresh, deep, unmistakable. I followed them, and they ended right where my land touches the HOA's back gate. I told myself it was a random mix-up. New resident, wrong turn. Happens, but then it became a pattern. Every morning around 7:30, like she owned the sunrise, that same white SUV came barreling through, throwing dust in the air, blasting music loud enough to spook the cattle, never even glancing my way. Sometimes she'd toss me a fake friendly wave. Most days she didn't bother. I'd just stand there, feed bucket in hand, stunned. You know that feeling when someone does something so bold, so ridiculous, your brain takes a second to accept it, like watching a squirrel steal from a bird feeder while staring dead into your soul. Exactly like that. So I tried being civil. I put up a huge clear sign, private road, no trespassing, right at the spot she always cut across. The next morning, she came rolling through again, and the sign was gone. I found it hours later, snapped clean in half, and tossed behind my hay like some kind of trophy she won. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't confusion. It wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. This was war. That night, I was on my porch, watching the sun melt into the hills, when those headlights showed up again, jumping across the field like 2 angry sparks. She didn't brake for the ruts, didn't care about the dust cloud trailing behind her. She just cut straight across my land, like she owned the deed. The next morning, I made up my mind. Today, she wasn't passing. I parked my truck sideways across the bend in the road and waited. At exactly 7:32 a.m., Her white HOA-issued SUV appeared, right on schedule. I stepped out and waved both arms. She rolled her window halfway and gave me one of those polished smiles people practice in mirrors before they lie. "Morning, Mr. Rogers. Right? Is something wrong?" "Yeah," I said. "You're driving on private land. This road isn't public. It's mine." She tilted her head like I'd told her the moon was made of cheese. "Oh, please, we're neighbors. What's a little dirt between friends?" That line burned itself into my memory. What's a little dirt between friends? I swallowed my irritation and kept it simple. "Ma'am, this isn't a shortcut. It's a working ranch road. Stop using it." She widened her smile like she'd won something. "Well, I'll check with the board." And then she hit the gas, blasting dust right into my face. Turns out her board was a small army of retirees with clipboards, people who treated HOA meetings like national security briefings, and every one of them danced to Claire's tune. Over the next week, those folks kept showing up along my fence, measuring, whispering, pointing, like surveyors planning an invasion. Then one afternoon, I got home from the feed store and found Claire and 3 HOA members standing at the mouth of my road. Iced lattes in hand, clipboards at the ready, like a mobile bureaucracy unit. I rolled down my window. "Help you folks with something?" Claire flashed her porcelain smile. "Oh, Brandon, perfect timing. We're holding a quick community vote." "A vote? For what?" "The board has decided it would benefit everyone if your access road were opened for neighborhood use. We're calling it a shared easement." I laughed. I genuinely thought she was joking. Then I saw the signatures, the bullet points, the HOA letterhead. My laugh died in my throat. That night, after I finished feeding the horses, I opened my mailbox. Inside was a letter. No county seal, no legal office, just the HOA logo printed in the ugliest font known to mankind. It read, "Dear Mr. Rogers, the HOA board has officially voted to integrate your ranch road into Whispering Pines community access. Any resistance will be treated as non-compliance with community guidelines. Cooperation is expected. Sincerely, Claire Phillips, President." "Yes?" She drew a smiley face. I sat on the porch, letter in one hand, beer in the other, staring at that moonlit strip of dirt. In the distance, I could hear an HOA SUV idling like a threat. And that's when it clicked. Claire didn't want convenience. She wanted control. People like her don't see land. They see lines on a map they think they can rearrange with enough signatures. Well, she picked the wrong rancher. By the time I finished my beer, my mind was made up. No more polite requests. No more signs. No more patience. If she wanted a shortcut, she was about to get one she'd never forget. The next morning, I called Derek Miller, my oldest friend and the only man alive who owns a backhoe and considers chaos a hobby. The phone rang twice before he answered. "Derek," I said, "you ever feel like teaching Karma how to dig?" There was a pause, then his deep laugh filled the line. "Brandon, tell me when and how deep." And that was it. The plan was set. 2 days after that ridiculous letter arrived, the air went unnaturally still, a silence that hums in your bones right before something stupid happens. I was patching a fence when I heard voices, lots of them. I looked up and saw a crowd gathered on my land. Folding chairs, balloons, clipboards, coffee cups. It looked like a neighborhood picnic collided with a corporate meeting. And at the center stood Claire, wearing a pink blazer and gripping a megaphone like a field marshal. As I walked toward them, I saw a banner stretched across a folding table. Community access vote, making progress together. I muttered, this is gonna be good. Morning, Brandon, Claire chirped. Perfect timing. We're finalizing the vote to integrate your road as a shared access point. You're standing on private land, I said. Oh, don't be dramatic. The board already recognized this portion as a community easement. We're just formalizing it democratically. You can't vote your way onto someone else's property. She tapped her clipboard. Well, the charter allows us to make recommendations based on community needs. Recommendations, I said, not land grabs. She smiled sweetly. You'll regret not cooperating. I pointed at their banner. Pack up this circus and get off my land. Her smile froze. The crowd went silent. But eventually, they left. That night, another letter arrived, laminated this time, signed with her dramatic cursive, and of course, another smiley face. I kept it. Evidence. Something inside me shifted. The polite version of me died quietly that night, and the man who took his place had a mission. I noticed everything after that. HOA patrol cars circling my fence, drones hovering too close, volunteers jogging by with GoPros strapped to their chests. They weren't watching the road anymore. They were watching me. But by then, it didn't matter. The decision was made. I called Derek again. He answered groggily, Tell me you didn't buy another cow. No cows, I said, but I've got a pest problem. Coyotes? Worse, the kind that drive white SUVs and file community motions. He snorted. Oh, HOA varmints. Exactly. What's the plan? I looked out at the moonlit road. Something educational. The next morning, Derek rolled in with his old Ford, a thermos of coffee, and a grin that promised trouble. All right, he said. Where's this lesson going? We walked the road, studying its curves like two artists choosing where to carve marble. Finally, I pointed to a spot right after a blind bend. There. She hits that stretch doing 30 easy. Derek nodded. How deep? Deep enough for reflection, I said. He slapped my back. Philosophical hole. Got it. We hauled the backhoe from his shed, greased every joint, checked the hydraulics, and fired it up. The machine roared like a waking beast. By sundown, the outline was marked. By moonrise, the trench was done. 3 feet wide, nearly 4 feet deep. Enough to stop an SUV, not injure the driver. Just enough to force humility. We laid plywood across it, packed dirt over the top, scattered twigs and grass. From 20 feet away, it looked like untouched country road. A masterpiece. Derek admired it with a beer in hand. Modern rural art, he said. Title, Consequences of Entitlement. We laughed until our ribs hurt. Before heading back, we set 2 trail cameras in the brush. Karma was now armed and ready. The next morning, we dragged 2 folding chairs behind a line of hay bales. Derek brought donuts. I brought coffee. Think today's the day? He asked. It's Friday, I said. And Claire never misses her yoga class. We settled in. The sun climbed. The fields glowed gold. The world held its breath. Then we heard it. The roar of tires, loud pop music, a woman shouting affirmations into a podcast about manifesting boundaries. Claire. The SUV appeared over the hill. White, shiny, arrogant as ever. Yoga mat riding shotgun. Iced latte in the cup holder. Sunglasses big enough to eclipse her forehead. Derek whispered, $20 says she's on speakerphone. Make it 40, I said. And bragging. Right on cue, we heard her voice echoing through the open window, complaining about people who don't support community harmony. The irony almost made me spit my coffee. She hit the blind bend fast. Too fast. Her front tires rolled onto the disguised plywood. A tiny creak echoed. Then, crack. The plywood snapped. The SUV's nose dropped like a stone. The front end disappeared into the trench, back tires kicking into the air before slamming down with a thud. Airbag dust billowed. Claire screamed. High, sharp, furious. Derek nearly fell out of his lawn chair laughing. Claire kicked open the door, stumbled out covered in dust, clutching her phone like she was calling in air support. "This is sabotage," she yelled. "I could have died. This is a criminal act." She tripped over her yoga mat, dropped her iced latte into the trench, and shrieked again. Frosting the wreck with spilled coffee felt poetic. Within 15 minutes, Sheriff Cole arrived, a big, tired man who'd seen enough nonsense for 3 careers. He took one look at the scene, pinched the bridge of his nose, and sighed so deeply I felt it in my soul. "Mr. Rogers," he said, "you want to explain this?" "Sure do," I answered. "That there is a soil erosion control project. Been planning it for weeks, and this is private land. She's been trespassing daily." Claire gasped. "This is a public road." Sheriff Cole raised an eyebrow. "Public road, huh?" He turned to me. "That true?" I reached slowly into my back pocket for the folded. Claire didn't stop, even after the broken sign, even after my warnings. So I did the only thing left that didn't involve lawyers or yelling matches. I let the land speak for itself. The next morning before sunrise, I fired up my old backhoe and carved a deep trench right across the spot she always cut through. Not wide enough to hurt anyone, but deep enough to make a point. I covered the edges with loose soil so it looked untouched. Just another quiet morning on the ranch. Right on schedule, 7:32 a.m. Her white SUV came flying over the ridge, music thumping, dust rising behind her. She didn't slow down, didn't look left or right, until the ground disappeared under her front tires. The SUV dipped, slid, and sank straight into the mud with a wet, angry slurp. For the first time since she'd moved in, Claire didn't wave. She just sat there, stunned, gripping the wheel while mud oozed around her doors. I walked over slow, leaned on my shovel, and said calmly, "Private property means private, Mom." She didn't argue. She couldn't. The tow truck took 2 hours. She never touched my land again. And that, finally, was the end of the shortcut and the end of Claire's kingdom.